Crime in Court. My name is Heather, and this is episode 45 of the Canton Cover-Up, the Commonwealth versus Karen Reed. We've also dived into the Commonwealth versus Aiden Turtleboy Carney because he is a journalist who has reported on this case extensively. And he has been part of the cover up and corruption and BS not not part of, sorry. He has been a subject of the cover-up and corruption that has taken place in the District County, Norfolk County District, sorry, over there in Massachusetts. So this episode is titled "The CW Rests and the Real Heroes Show Up." So, in this episode, we're going to go over some of the testimony that took place on Friday of last week. So, as I'm recording this, it is Sunday. However, so I'm talking Sunday, June 23rd, for those of you watching this in the future, of 2024. And so, this past Friday, let me put myself back on. This past Friday, the Commonwealth rested and sorry, I'm like all in a daze. Okay. No, I was just like rushing to get ready. Sorry. All right. So, what was I saying? So the Commonwealth rested finally after what, 8 weeks of a lot of nonsensical testimony. However, um, we had a lot of repetitive testimony. We had a lot of people who testified to the same things, which, like, okay, you might as well just get a meteorologist and tell us that it was snowing instead of telling us through 17 different witnesses. I mean, come on. Okay, my dog is having issues when she. Do your dogs curl up, like circle up before they curl up into a ball? Because I have a little one who does, and she gets cold easily. And so she loves to sleep under the blanket. And so she'll do that under the blanket, but then the blanket twirls around under her. So I have to hold the blanket up while she spins. It's a whole process. We have it usually down pretty good, but sometimes when I'm recording, she's not so good. Anyways, so the Commonwealth rested, and their final witness that was on the stand was Dr. Irene Scorty Bello, who we are going to listen to. I'm just going to show you a tiny little bit of her direct right at the very end. I mean, it's just minuscule because I can't stand listening to Lolly any more than I have to. I'm sure you guys are probably lollied out as well. So I am going to try to reduce as much lolly as I can, but when I really want to show a point, I'm going to put lolly in, unfortunately. All right, so this is, as I said, this is coming from Friday's testimony, and Dr. Irene Scortibello, she's already gone through, this is just the very tail end. She's gone through all of the injuries and opined on what could or could not have happened to his injuries. What really becomes more impactful is Eliza Little's cross. And so I'm going to play you pretty much all of that because I think it's really good. So let's start with, first of all, her conclusion, which I'm going to play right now. Sorry. Like trying to think of 14 things at the same time. So this clip I'm titling Medical Examiner's Conclusion. So all that. Um, I didn't want to have you sit through all of it, but that is her conclusion, her final conclusion. It's not really. So her manner of death was actually undetermined because she could not conclusively tell, sorry, my lips get chapped. She could not conclusively tell whether or not it was a car accident. Like she didn't have definitive evidence that it was a car accident. Pro- um, Lolly did ask if she ever felt pressure to write a certain determination, and she said she did not. However, we do see in her notes, and this is the key thing, which makes her testimony a little important, was because well, obviously a medical examiner's testimony is going to be important and there's going to be a lot of weight to it, but whether or not she had been influenced by law enforcement, even if it was not, she does talk about reaching out to law enforcement too to get more information. So she says she does that regularly in her cases, which I mean, I guess to a certain degree you can learn certain information, but if a officer just says, here's a body. We believe it was hit by a car. Go. And if they shape, they already have that in their mind that it could have been a car accident, so that could shape what they say on the report. So they really should go in completely blind, in my opinion, not really knowing any of the circumstances and tell you what they should be able to tell you what the evidence shows you by the what's on the body, everything, that's taking place in the body and on the body. That is what the evidence of medical examiner should be looking at, not it could have been this or it could have been that, so let me know if it matches. And just the mere mention of it can put that idea in her head that, oh, maybe it was a car accident. And she could say things in her report that are slanted that way. So that is why she's an important witness. And she does say she wasn't pressured, but I still say there's that bias. And you also want to believe law enforcement and you don't want to think that they're lying. So, plus, she works with this law enforcement all the time. So she doesn't feel like they would have a need to lie to her. So there's so many little factors at play here. So it's not just what's her conclusion, it's all the other things that I've just mentioned and more. So we're going to skip now to the next clip. She's going to be on Cross with Liza, like I said. And this clip I am calling That's a Possibility. And Liza is, oops, oh God, hold on. All right, sorry, I lost my place. I I found it again. So I'm gonna turn this up because Liza Little, the defense attorney that's going to be doing the questioning now, she's a little soft-spoken. So I'm gonna turn it up and hope that you guys can hear it as much as possible. I'm gonna turn it up. And also, what was I gonna say? Something else. I don't remember. Oh, they're looking at pictures right now on the screen of John's injuries. She went through every picture or whatever pictures they admitted into evidence. There were like 5 or 6, I think. And she went through each of the pictures and explained this injury was caused by blunt force trauma. This injury was caused by whatever, she thinks, or this is lividity. This is not a bruise, or however she did it. So so now we are, whatever her determinations were, I should say, how she did it. So now we're moving on to cross-examination, and here we go. I do have the trigger warning up. There is going to be some graphic content displayed. It is only going to show John's hands and his arm, the injuries on his arm, when the dog bite expert later in this show is going to testify. So right now we might see a picture of a hand, but just fair warning, it is fair warning. He bit his tongue. Possible. No, it could. No, that's not road rash. I think anybody can look at that and say that looks like an attack from an animal. It was the initial thing that I thought like forever ago when I saw these first put on court TV when they first had a hearing about it, which was like early last 2023. So I think like April, May-ish. So as soon as I saw these, I was like, that looks like a dog attacked his arm. And I knew he had a German Shepherd, Brian Albert. So, but even before that, I still think, or did I know that? I don't know if I knew that beforehand, but I know now that that could easily be bites and puncture wounds from claws as well on a man's arm from multiple like tries to get at it. I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to tell that, but she might as well be a rocket scientist, our bite mark expert. But before we get to that, let's finish Dr. Irene Scorty Bellows' testimony. Oh, trash. Oops. Okay, they have to approach for some reason, so we're gonna skip. They take a break. Oh no, that's not this one. There is one where they skip and take a break, but I was wrong. It's this, not this one. So he never had an IV in his hands. According to his medical records, they were all done through his shin or femur veins, not from a hand. So that is not from an IV. Even though she opines that it could be, there's no medical record to corroborate that he had any IV placed in his hand. So an abrasion is like a scrape versus a laceration is a deeper cut, like getting cut with a knife or like if you cut yourself accidentally with a knife, that would be an abrasion. But if you scraped yourself on the rug and got like rug burn, that's an abrasion. So that's the difference. And for years or months, we have been spoon fed from the Commonwealth that the injuries on John's arms were actually abrasions, and she did testify on the stand that they are actually lacerations, which means a deeper cut versus an abrasion, which is just a scrape. So therefore, what did it? Not a taillight, as the Commonwealth would have you believe, according to Trooper John Paul or Joseph Paul. He was the accident reconstructionist, sort of. He sort of reconstructed the accident, but not really. And he didn't know, he just didn't have the training. And I feel bad for the guy, but I don't because his ignorance, his lack of self awareness, um, and just awareness of the people around him, his lack of ability to detect that he was being used to create this sort of scenario that she backed up into him and it damaged the taillight on her car and nothing else. And he had all these injuries from that. Make it fit. So unfortunately, he was used. Maybe, maybe not. Maybe he did it intentionally, willingly. I don't know. But I do know. um, I feel like he didn't know how he was going to be destroyed on cross. But anyways, let's get back to Irene Scortivello discussing the abrasions on his nose or face. Why in the flying Harvignugan was this a sustained objection? I don't understand. It was a perfectly valid question. There are many perfectly valid questions that get sustained for some reason when when the defense is up asking the questions. It's really just insane. So, anyways, most of his injuries are consistent with a physical altercation. They are not necessarily consistent with motor vehicle accidents. And she even said on her, I skipped through Lolly because we don't want to listen to Lolly, but she said on her direct that, I totally lost my train of thought. Oh, that the injuries, John's injuries, were totally inconsistent with, or not totally inconsistent, but they were not the typical. I can't remember the exact words. They aren't the typical injuries that you do see in motor vehicle accidents. Is something along the lines that she said. So, um, it's not, it's not typical for a motor vehicle accident, and all these other signs are pointing to a physical altercation. But yet, somewhere in her notes, she said there was no signs of a physical altercation. So that's interesting. But then she totally changed her tune when she was on direct because she didn't rule it out. So I don't know. Did she actually say that? Maybe somebody wrote that on her behalf and tried to sign it. I don't know. I'm speculating. Or maybe that was when she felt pressured to put that answer. But she never, so even if she was pressured by Proctor, she didn't change her determination, which is important to point out. But she still could have put that verbiage in there. Um, sorry, I had a cough. She put that verbiage in there, potentially maybe because she felt threatened about the whole, it was not from a physical altercation, because how could she even determine that when all the signs, or there's many signs pointing to that? Anyways, let's let her talk for, what clip are we at? We're still on That's a Possibility. Okay. He had injuries both in the front on both temples, which, think about it, if you are getting hit in a fight, where's the damage going to go? Your temples, most likely. But he had damage to both temples and the back of his head, which to me makes me think that he was punched multiple times. He had multiple contusions on both sides. There was worse damage on the left, which makes sense. If you're a righty, you're going to hit someone on their left side. So there's that. Yeah. And then he fell backwards, probably, after he got his lights knocked out of him. I also want to, sorry for interjecting again, but I also want to say that if you have two drunken law enforcement folk who are, they've been at a funeral for another fallen officer back in New York or up in New York. Where's New York to Massachusetts? From New York to they drove back in Higgins' Jeep, probably after drinking with a bunch of people in New York. Drove back in Higgins' Jeep, probably, oh, excuse me, probably potentially drugs could be involved, and that could be another reason why tempers get flared. And you might not know your own strength when you've been up for many hours, still going, still partying strong, having had many drinks and potentially other substances in their bodies, and they could be very um it it easily could have been a situation of you don't know your own strength because you're so blasted out of your mind. And Brian's a big guy. Brian Albert, Brian Higgins is a big guy too, but Brian Albert is like a fighter body build, whereas Higgins is more like, the teddy bear doughboy type of thing. Where sorry, Higgins. But and then you got Brian Albert who he does fighting and he trains MMA, which is mixed martial arts and boxing. So it there's a lot of reasons that could point to a physical altercation here. And she's not being honest, or she wouldn't be being honest if she didn't at least admit to that. So she does. She does admit that it could have been a physical altercation. So I'm gonna skip to 54, 33. So this is gonna be right when the CW, or right before the CW rests. Lolly does come back up. He tries to do some damage control after Liza did a good job getting her to admit that a physical altercation could be possible, to a possible um, source of those injuries. So now this is Adam Lolly, prosecutor, questioning or doing his recross. Let me change that somewhere, or I'm sorry, redirect. So that's it. But she also admitted that it could be multiple blows to his face to cause those injuries. So she doesn't know. She says she doesn't know the source. So she cannot definitively stand there on the stand and say this these injuries that John O'Keefe has came from a motor vehicle accident, or not. She can't even say that they're consistent with a motor vehicle accident. I mean, she's saying it could be a possibility. She's saying it could be, but she's not even like, whoops, she's not even, I talk too much with my hands, sorry. She's not even holding firm to her conviction there. So, anyways, moving on, we're going to move on to, so the Commonwealth rests. This was their last witness, like I said, and now we're going to move on to Brian Lucky Loughran, who is the Canton plow driver who plowed 34 Fairview Road, or plowed the road in front of 34 Fairview. that night. And he has some very, very, very damning testimony for the Alberts. So let's start with this first clip. 141. This first clip I call the Franken truck. And just a little background because I didn't go back as far because I didn't want to give you all that detail because there was stuff in between. But so the Franken truck is the truck that Lucky uses when he goes plowing when he goes plowing the roads of Canton. So it is also a regular everyday truck, which is used for, I don't know, the town of Canton, I'm assuming. Maybe, yeah, probably the town of Canton used as an everyday truck. But it has a plow. So they're the plow truck. That's his plow truck. And it's an old truck, he explains, and it has old parts, a lot of new parts that had to be replaced with different pieces, and it's kind of like a makeshift Frankenstein. So a Franken truck, if you will. Makes sense. I love it. I think it's great. And the jury likes it too, I think, and I think they find him pretty charming. He is very straight-laced. I'm going to tell you, this is my work, this is my job. Yes, no, yes. He's very straightforward. So let's begin with Brian L- Loughran. Pronounced, I think, Loughran. All right. I keep saying Loughran. Anyways, here we go. Are you catching the drift? He's sitting up high. He's got very bright lights that are up high, giving him a really good view from his Franken truck. He needs a good view in order to make sure that there are no pedestrians, animals, or cars. These are the types of things that he's always on the lookout for. So he's a very, very good witness. Not bad. It's like almost driving with a spotlight, meaning if John were laying out there, he would have seen him. End of story. No questions asked. He would have seen him. All right, so this part gets clunky. He's shown a map of Canton. This I'll show you a better map. You're not going to be able to see it very well on the screen. I even tried to do a screen capture of this exact image, but it doesn't show very well because it's kind of blurry and the lines are kind of hard to make out. Um, Watching it from this screen. Um, so he's leave. I'm trying to fast forward until I get to the right spot. Um, all right, that's good. I just needed it was clunky with the whole, exhibit portion of it. So I skipped to the right part. So on the screen in front of you, you have what's marked as 34 Fairview. Also says crime scene according to Google Maps now, and the image of the house is now blurred, even though it didn't used to be. I used to be able to go see it whenever. But the attention that this case has gotten already has made Google change the listing for 34 Fairview Road to crime scene, to say crime scene in parentheses. Anyways, so you can see there on the screen at the upper left-hand corner where 34 Fairview Road is. It's marked with a red bubble. So Cedar Crest, Fairview is basically sandwiched by Cedar Crest and Chapman. So just remember that. And then Spring Lane, you can see he was also talking about, in King Road. So this is his route. This literally is his route that he does in this little area. So he knows this route well. And just keep in mind the whole Cedar Crest and Chapman and when he's talking about directions. And I'm going to let it play while he's talking, but leave the map up just so you can have the visual. I'll bring him back in a little bit. Oh, not his vision's not like Jen, where she can only focus on one thing. She has no peripheral or can't see a body laying in the lawn, but can see people past him. Yeah, so I think he has better eyesight than Jen McCabe. 2:45. He passes 34 Fairview Road. He sees the entire front lawn. Why? I guess it's speculation, but still, I mean, mm, I think that's a perfectly good question. Wow. Oh, he notices a Ford Edge parked out front. He notices it's weird because they never have cars parked out there. What else does he say? Stuck out as weird to him. By the way, Lucky has grown up in Canton. He is a Canton native. He um, knows the Alberts. He was even friends with the Alberts. He worked for the Alberts. He grew up with them and went to school with them. So there is a lot of his brother Mike, I think his name, Mike Loughran is on the Canton Select Board. So there's a lot of reason for Lucky to come forward and lie for the Alberts, but yet he's telling us he saw Ford Edge parked in the same spot that John was found later in that morning. But before that Ford Edge was there, there was nobody. Nobody at 2:30 means Karen didn't hit him. And the Commonwealth has now realized that fact. So to troubleshoot that, they have tried to make the inference that Karen went back that morning to 34 Fairview Road to go find John, and then she ran him over at 5 o'clock in the morning, which makes no sense. So you're going to hear a little bit about that too in this. I think it's in the next clip, but still, really, really odd behavior from Lolly. Their policy is to call in any cars on the streets so that they can get towed. What does he do? As a courtesy to the Alberts, the people that he knows and grew up with, went to school with, worked for at one point in time, this group of people, he knows they live there, but as a courtesy to them, because somebody parked out in front, he is going to not call them in. Could you imagine? Could you imagine if they called him in that night? If he called in for a tow for that? Oh, that would have been interesting if he had the Ford Edge towed. Then we'd know for sure whose Ford Edge it was. I I believe Kevin and Colin Albert both own light colored Ford Edges, and Brian Albert owns a dark colored Ford Edge. He's going to talk about the color and what he saw there that night. So remember, that's 3:15, 3:30. There's still no body that he can see. There's a Ford Edge, though, no body. Oops. He couldn't go further at 5 in the morning. Why? So if he saw first responders down there, then he went back after 6:04 in the morning because they didn't arrive until about 6:04, and then they called Carrie blah, 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 Jen McCabe called 911 at 6:07, I believe, and then they showed up shortly thereafter. There were officers in the area that showed up very, very quickly to the scene. So, what did he just say? I don't remember. But yeah, I think I made my point. My point only was just that his third time down Fairview would have been after 6:04 to just because they were trying to figure out the time. So it was definitely after if the EMTs were there. So he was never approached by law enforcement until 18 months later. I think it's 18 months. And he was approached, however, very soon after the incidents by Karen Reed's private investigator. She hired a PI to find out what the heck happened. And that's so smart on her end. Like, I never would have thought of that. But she hired a PI. He went out to interview Lucky before the feds, before law enforcement, before anybody else. This guy, Paul, for the win, went to go talk to Lucky. Proctor and Buchanan emerge once again. And just like everything in this trial, it goes back to Proctor, who was the lead investigator, and every piece of evidence he touched in some way or another. And we're also accepting the word of Jen McCabe through officers, through hearsay, through third party people. We're not hearing it necessarily from Jen, but the narrative of that night that law enforcement ran with was Jen McCabe's. So, because she's in with the brothers in blue because her brother in law was a Boston PD, she felt that it was okay, I guess. I don't know. She feels it's all right to be a crappy human being. I don't know. She, no doubt in my mind, left John out to die in the snow. Otherwise, why was she Googling how long to die in the snow? There's just no other explanation she knew. All right, so we're going to skip on to the next. Sorry, my brain goes from one jump to the other. So if you have a hard time keeping up, you're not the only ones around here. All right, so 209. We're going to start with this. We're going to go to Cross now. And told you I'm not going to play you a whole lot of Lolly, but this is kind of fun. And I'm kind of playing it just to make fun of Lolly, even though I don't like to make fun of people, but I kind of do when their case is this bad and they're trying an innocent woman, knowingly trying an innocent woman. Oh, I call this clip Lally tries to rattle Lucky. So Lolly tries to get him like, well, What were the tail lights like? Like, how do you know that it wasn't Higgins' Jeep? And he comes back with, "Oh, this is how I know. This is how I know." He knows from news reports and things like that, all of us know John was found by the flagpole. There's also a fire hydrant that was nearby and a bunch of bushes and some trees. That's where he was found. So Lucky knows this by now because he's not an idiot. And this particular crime, 'cause it is a crime, what Brian Albert, potentially Higgins, and potentially Colin. I don't think Colin really landed a punch, but to be fair, I mean, I think they were all involved somehow or another. That's my speculation, and I'm just saying, based on everything that has come out so far. Oh, sorry, this clip is over. So we're gonna move on to the next clip, which I call "Returning to the Scene of the Crime." 227. Bam. Bam. Okay. Karen's car didn't do it. At no point in time did he ever see a black SUV out there. And at no point in time did he see a body. And he drove past it multiple times. He did multiple sweeps, one at 2:30 and one at 2:30 to 2:45 and then one at 3:15 to 3:30. He came around again at 5:30 or no, he says it was 5:30, but it had to be after 6 because EMTs weren't on the scene until after 6:12 or something like that. They arrived pretty quickly. So, with that said, we all raise a glass to you, Lucky, because you're a stand-up individual in Canton. And not just Canton, but the world thanks you for being brave enough to stand up to injustice. Because this woman, Karen Reed, has been through enough. All right, so we're going to move on now to Dr. Marie Russell. She is the dog bite expert. She has, I'll just put it this way, she has a very, very extensive resume. Okay, I've named this clip about her. This woman does it all because she really does. She's got so much incredible knowledge in that brain. She spent her whole life um, following her passions, which we should all do. So we'll listen to a little bit of her. I'm not going to play it all because it really does kind of go long, but I want you guys to hear some of her background. 16 years of formal education beyond high school. Beyond high school. She makes us all look bad, okay? I'm just saying. She's a doctor who is also law enforcement. She's got law enforcement background. That's crazy. This woman does it all. She got a degree in psychology. So she's into medicine, she's into law enforcement, she's into psychology. Like this woman knows everything. She's got a vast wealth of knowledge. She's amazing. Hmm. She's done emergency room medicine and she's also been an ME, a coroner. This woman's amazing. She learned and has experienced so much that now she's teaching it. I can't even list everything on her resume anymore. I've lost count of all the things that she is. It's crazy. Wow. This woman, I just want to say, this woman who has done it all, the prosecution, Anne Lally, wanted a voir dire of her. They had to fly her out just for one day to answer similar questions as to her background. Not as in much detail, but similar questions were asked of her and her expertise in the dog biting arena. And if you, I mean, have you not been listening for the last 5 minutes of the stream? It's like this woman, I think it was Emily D. Baker described her as the most experty expert of experts because she has so much knowledge and so much experience and she's um I just can't say it enough. She's amazing. I think she's 71. She's a 71-year-old woman who just recently retired from a long and rich career in medicine and other things. Wow. All right, I'm gonna skip forward a little bit. Where's our next segment? So here's her experiences to dog bites. Now this is bleeding into the next clip that I'm calling Dr. Russell's Conclusions. So, in her voir dire, she said she didn't see those documents on Chloe's past bite history, but since then she had reviewed them. So they went to a sidebar, then they into a break. So we're going to continue back when they get back here, which is at 3:06. And then she's going to talk some more about the dog bite. She's not going to talk about Chloe's bite history because I think well, I don't know if they even had questions for her on that, but um, I don't know if it was overruled or not. I think it was overruled, wasn't it? Maybe. I thought she said it was overruled. Yeah, I don't know. But they never even get into Chloe's bite history that I know of. So I don't know. She's just really opining on them on John's injuries on his arm. Oh, whoops. Hmm. I think that's extremely relevant and important if she were to say that that's something, defensive wounds are often, she's an expert in this. She can say defensive wounds often come on your arm. I've seen it a million times in my ER. People that defend themselves against a fight or a dog are going to stick their arms up over their face. It's because she said law enforcement. She's not supposed to say law enforcement dogs or something along those lines. I think that was one of the things that because supposedly they turned in their discovery late, which is BS because they turned in their discovery 3 days after they found it. They just didn't know that they were going to be calling Dr. Marie Russell, because she reached out to them after the trial had already started. She read an article in the Boston Globe and reached out to someone she had known through the LA office, district attorney's office or something, who got her in touch with Alan Jackson, I should say, and she offered to review the evidence, and here she is. But because Judge Bev is biased and corrupt herself, and she wanted to look for any reason to keep these experts out, she decided that she was going to agree with Lolly that their discovery was late, even though it wasn't. Turn it over in a timely fashion. It was just because trials had already started. Lolly was upset about it, so whatever. Um, and so part of the punishment for being late for the defense was to keep certain things out of her testimony, and that's talking about law enforcement dog bites was one of them, and she was not supposed to opine on any of Jen's head injuries, just the arm, even though she's perfectly qualified to do any and all of it. What just happened to the volume? Oh, they are going to a sidebar. Um, okay, so that was it, I guess. That was Dr. Russell's conclusions. Did I skip too far? I think I did. Yeah, okay, sorry. I skipped through Jackson's ending here. Oops, I went too far back. But the victim is going to be pulling away, and the dog's going to be coming at him, and it's going to be like catching, not getting a full grab on to the arm. So those are very consistent in those wounds would be consistent in what I just explained. Him pulling away and the dog coming at him and not catching a full purchase on the arm. And that's going to be the end of direct. I'm not going to play cross. Uh, just as a summary, Lolly was very rude to her for no reason. She's a very likable witness. She's like a grandma. She's like everybody's grandma. She's very likable, sweet old lady. And they're trying to, like, Lolly's trying to come at her, being angry with her for reasons not like that make no sense, and coming at her for like, well, how long was your Boston Globe subscription when who cares? Like, he's trying to impeach her on her Boston Globe subscription? Seriously? That's all you got, Lally? So I'm not gonna play it, but if you are interested, I suggest you go back and watch him make a fool of himself. I'm not gonna show him anymore in this video. Next, we're gonna go on to Richard Green. He is the data forensics expert, and he is gonna be the last witness that we have for this stream. Let's go. He's very likable too. Somebody equated him to like a Chris Farley vibe. I didn't notice it before, but once they said that, I was like, yeah, I totally get it. From what I understand, and I'm not from this world, but in IT, it's like the associates is basically just like a formal thing to have. But really, the training and the education is where the certifications come in. And he's going to talk about all the different certifications that he has acquired over the years. And those are going to be really where I think the chunk of information comes from individuals' education in IT. Um, I don't know. I know there's not like a PhD. You can't get a PhD in IT. Can you get I think you can get a master's in IT. I used to work at an online college. I think we had a master's program for IT, but that was it. I can't remember. It doesn't matter. But anyways, so their education really comes in their certifications. So here is his. All right. So he has a lot of good background experience and certifications. We're going to move on to interpreting the data. This is kind of a longer portion of this um, stream, but I don't want to skip through a whole lot of it because it's important to know all the little intricacies of this as to he's going to go into John McCabe's phone, John O'Keefe's phone, and Karen Reed's phone. So he is asked to look at all three of those phones, and he's going to break some things down for us regarding the Apple Health data and the House Long to Die in cold search that happened on Jen McCabe's phone and other activities that she was doing there that night. So he's going to kind of break that down. And again, it's a little bit longer, but I don't want to skip through his stuff. So back up one minute there. Whoops, I didn't go far enough. I don't know, I went backwards somehow. This is important because they say he never went into the house, but his location data shows that he possibly, probably could have been in that house. To repeat that, 98% of the time, Apple is right. But the Commonwealth is telling us that the Apple Health data is wrong and that the digital forensics is wrong and the history of Jen McCabe's phone is wrong and everything is wrong regarding the evidence that has to do with the McAlberts, apparently. But when it's against Karen and showing towards Karen's guilt, it's obviously correct when it comes to the Commonwealth. So, I mean, you can't have it both ways. Mhm. Isn't he just a charming man? Like all of the witnesses so far for the Commonwealth, I mean, most of them have been not really credible, not very believable, or there's just something that's off about them. But then you get the defense's case. I mean, they just got the case Friday, and they've put on three witnesses so far, and each one of them more charming than the next. I mean, they're just all, I mean, not really, but they're all just lovely and charming. And I just feel like any animosity or anger that Wally shows when he's questioning the witnesses, which he does inappropriately at times, it's just going to backfire on the Commonwealth because these people that are testifying, I mean, one, you've got, sorry, I gotta scooch over here. One, you've got a dog DNA expert who reached out, I don't know, phone cord, I think fell. Someone, someone who's this world-renowned, like, expert in everything. She's done everything in medicine and law enforcement and psychology, and she is volunteering her time to come here and testify on behalf of Ms. Reed because she believes that the evidence is not pointing to a car crash. From what she's experienced, she knows dog bites. So, I mean, just these charming individuals that I mean, I don't know. There's just a huge contrast between the Commonwealth's witnesses versus the few defense witnesses we've had so far. And we're only going to have a few more after this. The defense is probably going to rest because, frankly, they don't even need to put on any evidence because I don't believe that a jury is going to find her guilty, and I don't believe that they have proven their case. So, um, anyways, let's get back to Richard Green. He is going to go over some of the uh, health data here. This is John's health, Apple Health records. These are really significant because this is the last bit of information that John's phone calculated before 6 in the morning. So this time period, the 12:21 to 12:24 a.m. is likely when something potentially happened to John because we have no more activity after that. So this time frame, this little short amount of time is really important here. The timeline down to the minutes is important here. 24:37. That makes sense. That makes sense that you don't travel 80 steps in 1 minute. It takes you a couple minutes to do that, or whatever the steps are. 'I just want to say Axiom. We heard from a guy who invented, created Axiom. He was on the stand for the Commonwealth, and it really just read as an infomercial to his software when he was up there because he was a Cellbrite is or was probably no longer anymore a Cellbrite employee, and he created this Axiom software, which is a competitor of Cellbrite. But he got up on the stand and said how much uh, Ian Whiffen was the expert's name. If you want to go back and look for him, he basically claimed why his software was so much better and it blah blah blah. I stopped listening because I know that whatever they're just talking out of their butts with those experts. But anyways, so um he had he had mentioned he only had like 600 worldwide users, and he gives the software away for free. So I that doesn't really, give me a whole lot of confidence in him. And so we're going to actually hear this guy talks, he uses Axiom and he uses Cellbrite to run the data. And he's going to tell us a little bit about that. It is important, Bev, because the she's going to strike that, but it is very important because of the fact that everyone, all the eyewitnesses have different time frames for when Karen was there, when they looked out the window, when they drove by, when they saw her car, and we also have data of when she arrives home. So, I mean, everybody's testimony has gone all over the place in this, and in the timeline, it has just gone, Lolly himself has crushed his own timeline with his own witnesses, with his own line of questioning. So the timeline has already been pretty much obliterated, but we know that we need to pinpoint when John stopped moving, when he stopped having any other interactions with his phone. So that's another portion of the timeline. Was Colin still in the house when John was moving? Was Karen Reed's car still there when John was still moving? So those are all the things that we need to look at because it could help exculpate or inculpate some people. So it is important, Bev. Mm. Lolly did that with every single witness. They would he would ask a question, they would answer it. He would reiterate the answer back to them in a question, just like David Yannetti did. Where was Bev telling Lolly to stop that garbage? And there you have it. He did the extraction and ran it multiple ways in the most updated versions and even accounted for the guy Ian Whiffin's mistake in whatever he was. I can't even remember the specifics, but this guy found the 227 house long to die in cold search happened. And again, like Occam's razor, whatever's the most simplest, the easiest answer, it's usually the answer. So um she either Googled house long to die in cold at 2:27 a.m. or again, her data just glitches and does weird things, and we're just supposed to believe that whenever it comes to Jen McCabe's digital forensics, we just shouldn't believe it. Okay, that makes more sense. Not. He's saying the Apple, what is it called? The Alcoa clock, or I don't know if I'm saying it right. But the clock that Apple uses is pretty gosh darn accurate. And she deleted it. Hmm. Isn't he just adorable? I like him. 5 separate tools, and he found it to be consistent. That she looked it up at 2:27 and 47, or at 2:27 and 40 seconds in the morning. It is official. I mean, I don't know how you can even debate this. And then the bogus claim that, oh, it just reverted back to the old tab, but that means that the Apple data would have had to have predicted the future to write it. So it doesn't make any sense to me. It just doesn't make any sense. Same program that the Commonwealth's expert used. So he's breaking it down by what tabs were open? Is that what I'm understanding? Or different apps, I guess, different apps that were being used and in the correct chronological order. Did you get that? It was the last in that time frame, the last one, not the first in this new, like starting over to this new time frame. No, it was the last entry in that time frame. So let him explain it one more time because I cannot explain high tech stuff. Hmm. This guy makes sense. The witnesses for the Commonwealth, I didn't even want to play them because their their excuses for Jen McCabe's cell phone just don't make sense. And this guy makes sense. This is an expert that he's likable, he's down to earth, he uses terms that people can understand, and he explains terms that are difficult. He's a very good witness, I think, for the defense. I can't read that. It says the last interaction, date, and time. And it's that 227, looks like 36 or 38. And that's the suspended tab. So I think the mystery of the tab is solved. That was a Lolly question if you ever heard one, and Lolly objects. Lolly objects to the same line of questioning that is okay for him when he's on his direct, but it's not okay for Yannetti. Are you serious? He should be able to express his opinion. He's an expert. Come on, Bev. Like, seriously, that's a perfectly valid question. Hmm. So it didn't spontaneously delete. That's what they said. Uncle Brian A. You know what, Lolly? Approach my foot as I kick you with it. Just kidding. I don't condone violence, but he's annoying. Oh, she complains about the no the where it is. Okay, here we go. 'Here we go. This is the Cellbrite report, I believe, of Jennifer McCabe. You can't tell. I can't read it. 'What? Why? She's whatever. I don't know. Bev's weird. Whoops. 100%. So that ends Yanetti's direct. I'm not going to play Lolly's Cross. He's rude to him and he really tries to impeach him, but he really can't. And it's another Lolly flop as before. But if you are interested in watching him flop, I recommend going and watching it if you can stand listening to him for very long. I can't, which is why I don't like to play him very much unless I really won't have a reason to. So, well, this was the end of the day. I mean, what you was there a redirect? There might have been a redirect. I'm not even sure. It was never um I don't think if Unity came back, I don't think it was for very long. Who's talking? I don't know. I don't know who's talking here. It's still Lolly. We don't need to hear him. All right. I do have two quick little updates that I want to share with you. So let me go to full screen here and show you. So this is David Yanetti's X page, and he updated it just recently. So he updated, I believe this picture is an old picture that was going, I think that's the one that Michael Proctor put in his phone and said, I hate that guy. Or somebody sent it to him and he said, I hate that guy. So I think that's why he changed this. Look how much younger he was and he had hair. And I mean, he's still good looking even without hair. Anyways, so now it says criminal defense attorney with offices in Boston, Salem, and Dedham, practicing throughout Massachusetts and tweeting about law and stuff. And if you've been watching the trial or you watched my recap on Joseph Paul's testimony, you would get that because he said in his grand jury testimony that he was going to be, whatchamacallit, there I am. Let me put myself up here. She was, what was I saying? I I can't think two things at once. Oh, because if you watch my last episode of Trooper Joseph Paul, he said on the stand in his grand jury testimony, like testing and stuff. So he used the word stuff when in regarding testing and things like that to determine the crash reconstruction, to reconstruct the crash, the accident, whatever, what have you. Anyways, so that I thought that was funny and I thought it was something to share. Um, and go follow him on formerly Twitter, now X. And finally, I'm going to leave you with, I'm going to disappear again. So this is my last portion of what I'm going to share with you. This is a new Microdots film, and it starts out, if there was a body, Lucky would have seen it. So I'm going to leave you with this. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate you. Please hit that like button on your way out. Take care. Bye now. And go. Oh, you know what? I'm not going to play the volume because, um, just so you know, because I think there's music and stuff. So, it's going to be silent. This is what you would have seen. Um, yeah, he would have seen John, don't you think? He also paid special attention to that area because he knew there was a flagpole and a fire hydrant there and an electrical box. So, yeah, Lucky would have absolutely seen John. I'm going to play it one more time. And take care, guys. I will see you in the next one. Bye now.
If you've been impacted by a true crime and would like your story told in your own words, or if you or someone you know has been wrongfully convicted or accused of a crime, please write to crimeincourtchannel@gmail.com and tell us your real true crime encounters. Thanks for watching.